everyone to the January 16th, 2025 meeting of the Hadley Housing and Economic Development Committee. With me this evening are members Bill Dwyer, myself, Molly Keegan, Mark Howard, E. Dragon, and Sean Berry, and our non-voting member, Tony Maroulis from the University of Massachusetts. First order of business, I did send around minutes from the November meeting. I don't know if anybody had any changes, edits, comments, or if they're up for approval.
I will make a motion to approve.
I second.
Okay, so motion made by Bill and seconded by, was that Sean?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Next thing on the agenda was just thought it was a good idea to follow up, excuse me, because there was some additional press about the $100,000 that the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and in concert with the Select Board approved to be transferred to Valley CDC for their project at the Econo Lodge. We had talked about that project here previously. And our committee was in favor of that, but just thought it might be a good idea to do a little bit of clarification. So just a reminder that right now at that Econo Lodge site, Valley CDC owns the building, but they have to go through a whole approval process at the state level in order for them to move forward with the project that was originally presented to us, planning board, select board, and the town. And that project is for the Econo Lodge to become permanently affordable. That was one of the criteria that we'd put on it. But affordable units that are intended to be transitional housing. And I try to remember the numbers. I want to say there were 53 units or 60.
That neighborhood.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood once they're done taking the existing configuration and turning it into these transitional apartments, if you will. So what Laura Baker had explained to us when she came for the ask for the $100,000 is that this is all part of the process for them to apply for funding from the state to help them bring that project to fruition. While Valley CDC is in that process, they have rented out the Econo Lodge to an independent program called Craig's Doors that I think many of us are familiar with. So Craig's Doors is currently at the Econo Lodge. As a matter of fact, I think they just received some additional funding to expand some of the units there. And when their lease is done, they'll be out, and then presumably Valley CDC will then be able to start the construction to get it ready for the project that we approved. So I just wanted to bring it up tonight to see if anybody had any questions about it, because there was some public comment at the select board meeting, and of course we can't respond to public comment in the moment, but I think some of that public comment was, a little bit jumbled up between what's being rented out right now and then what the intent of the $100,000 is for, which is for, again, the transitional housing. They'll have somebody resident in the building. Those tenants are vetted. There's an application process. And it was something that, I couldn't say that at the select board, but once it hit the Gazette, I thought, it might be a good idea just to bring it up here in case anybody on our committee had any questions about that or concerns of any kind.
So just on a very mechanical level, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund voted, I believe it was 5-1 to support the request for $100,000 pledge towards the conversion. because it exceeded our $10,000 spending capacity, it had to go to the select board for ratification. Select board voted 5-0 in favor. But it is a pledge towards the construction phase. It is not money that has been spent now. And so no money from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is being spent on the Craig Storrs phase. It's all being reserved for use maybe a year from now when the permanent funding is set up.
So any questions on that?
Just a question of interest. Who's gonna run that? Who's gonna administer that program?
The permanent one with the 100,000?
Yeah.
Positional, yeah, that's through Valley CDC.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is an update on 40R. So, Bill, I don't know if there was anything.
There really hasn't been any movement on that. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund met a second time. Basically what happened is that it turned into a more complex project than we anticipated. The original grant that the planning board obtained from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission was insufficient to fund the complete 40R study committee and drafting a bylaw for town meeting. So they went through their outreach. They that pretty much used up the money. PVPC applied for a second grant on behalf of the 40R study committee. As far as I know, there has been no action on that grant from the state. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund voted to spend up to $20,000 to support the 40R study committee, subject to other funds being available. And the select board subsequently ratified that as well. So we are trying to get some numbers. The planning board has a contract with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission for support services. There's some money in there. There is money in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and there is a pending grant application. So we're trying to get some numbers from PVPC as to what they anticipate a budget would be to complete the job. Meanwhile, there was at least Justin Peeland resigned from that committee as well as from this committee. So we did appoint 3 new members to the planning board, appointed 3 new members to the 40R study committee at our last meeting. And I believe the 40R study committee is going to meet perhaps next week. I don't know if they're posted yet. But they usually meet on Monday, and Monday is a holiday. So I'm not quite sure what their plan is, but it's still active, but it's been on hiatus for a bit, and not quite sure how that will do to the timetable. We had originally hoped that we might have something ready for this spring. That's not going to happen. Then the question is whether we'd have anything ready for fall. And in the world of zoning, we are already on a tight deadline to get something ready for fall. So we're probably looking at spring of 26 to get something in. But we'll see. A lot of moving pieces on that one.
And just following up, I actually had it on the agenda a little bit later, but since Bill brought it up, I did want everybody to know that Justin, as Bill said, did resign from both of the committees he had volunteered for, which is a big loss. I mean, Justin was doing an awful lot of work and he has an awful lot of knowledge about this. So because we didn't meet in December, I didn't bring it to the group then, but you know, it did go to the select board in terms of protocol to formally accept his resignation. But just in his letter of resignation, he had expressed a lot of frustration with, he had concerns about the lack of advertisement, if you will, for lack of a better way to put it. He felt around the special town meeting in the fall, and that the town continues to fall short in making sure that we're doing everything we can to notify the voters when these types of events are happening. So this was something that I know, I had talked to Justin about previously, and then, kind of happened again, if you will. And he just didn't feel like that he wanted to spend his time continuing, in this capacity. But that certainly did prompt a lot more conversation and action, actually. And, one of the things that we're going to add, not only making sure that these meetings are posted well in advance. If you go to the town website right now, you'll note apparently there's some glitch in the town software that they're trying to resolve and have been trying to resolve for a while, where there are two calendars. So the one that's on the face page doesn't always fully populate with the source calendar underneath. If you actually click through, you'll find the posting. But it's something that needs to be addressed. It's not okay. And I know people are working with the vendor on that. But in the meantime, there's a notification put on the banner on the face page saying, if you want the full postings, make sure you follow these directions and click in. So that's one thing. And then the meeting itself, we're making sure that the annual town meeting is posted well in advance. So that should be on there now. And we've also asked Mike Mason is going to use Nixle for purposes of letting people know, possibly next week or the week after, just saying, public service announcement, put it on your calendar. It's the first Thursday in May. Mark your calendars now so that people have ample time to plan ahead. So, anyway, so just that certainly spurred some action, but again, we're sorry to lose Justin as a member of the committee. Project update from the planning board.
Well, the two you have listed there, as far as the Bab Farm goes, we have not had any filing yet. Although we did get an approval not required plan submitted by a local surveyor, which will be reviewed at our next meeting. That just sets out the baseline of the lot area and is not part of the, is not a design submission. So we're not quite sure where that is in the pipeline. Did just file some assorted decisions, but nothing really substantive. The new dental office was approved at 100 East Street, a one-lot subdivision on Breckenridge Road, and a home occupation on Mount Warner Road. So nothing significant. The Parmars, we had them in at our meeting on the 7th. Had a fairly long discussion, and then they'll be doing another presentation at our upcoming meeting next Tuesday, the 21st, and they'll probably be back at our first February meeting. We're trying to, they have a draft of proposed zoning bylaw changes that they are seeking. We'll certainly discuss that. The big thing is that we have a village center overlay district that goes from the bridge to the rail trail along Route 9. And the buildings they are proposing are larger than what would otherwise be permitted in that district. On the other hand, they are proposing it be senior housing. And we haven't had a lot, for all the years we've had our senior housing bylaw in place, we only have one actual project that is nearing completion. So we're going to talk about the compromises involved, and that will be slated to be on the annual town meeting warrant on May 1. And that's about it. We really don't have anything else in the pipeline at the moment.
Bill, just a question for you. I was just thinking about this the other day, and so I think it's industrial. So, the other side of the railroad tracks where on South Maple, right? And then the Ideal Movers, the new storage facility that they put in there,
Yep.
was somewhat controversial, I think, in terms of public opinion on it, but within the rights of the existing zoning.
Mhm.
That particular zoning for that type of a project, what other areas on that side of the railroad tracks? I mean, does that extend all the way to the Amherst line, or where does that go?
It does, but it is
Is it landlocked or?
effectively because it extends along the railroad tracks, but really the only place to access it was through what is now Stuffit Storage.
Okay.
Hang on a second, and let me see if I can just bring up the zoning map. Okay. All right, let me get back to, there you are, Zoom, and share. So the purple crosshatch is the industrial district.
Mhm.
And you see that it runs on both sides of Mill Valley Road at the apex, which is where Stuffit Storage, their current facility, lies. And there's also a garden, somebody who deals in landscape materials.
Oh, is that Megan's Valley, I think?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be on the north side of Mill Valley Road, but on the south side of the rail trail. The brown line here is the rail trail.
Okay.
And then there is a 300-foot strip of agricultural residential land. There are some wetlands issues in there, so you can't really, you see where my cursor is, you can't really access this portion from over here. You can only access it from South Maple Street.
Mm-hmm.
That's Hampshire Mall, by the way, and the Hadley Garden Center on that side. And then on the south side of the rail trail, you see there's a fairly broad industrial district, but is separated from Mill Valley Road by a 300-foot residential strip. And you cannot access industrial land across residential land. So really the only access that there was to that, it would have been through where Stuffit Storage is now. So effectively, the rest of this is landlocked unless someone would ask to have a zone change for some land along here.
So I'm just gonna ask the question. I'm just wondering if there might be any merit to considering changing and removing the industrial zoning from there. Maybe in favor of the, little horse trading, if you will, and kind of protecting that green space. If we are looking more seriously at infill development along Route 9. I mean, is that something the planning board has ever done before? Have you ever unzoned something?
Yeah, we've downzoned before. We downzoned a portion of Chamorro Road, the business district that came down Route 47, which you see here, used to take a left onto Chamorro Road all the way to Laurel Drive. So we did do that. The problem we find when we try to downzone is the landowner coming in and saying, you're robbing me.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it is functionally inaccessible. So is that a fight we want to have? Now we have other land, for example, we've been cautioned that we should leave it zoned industrial because, that's the UMass Stadium, for example.
Mm-hmm.
We can't use it for industrial purposes because the UMass owns it, but apparently we get a better compensation for their occupancy of industrial land than if it were not industrial land. And there's a lot of wetland in here too, south of Rocky Hill Road, north of Stop and Shop. So probably not developable, but
Can
Yeah,
industrial zoned land be put in APR?
it can be, sure.
It can.
Agriculture is an allowed use in all districts.
Mhm.
The only thing that's not allowed in industrial is new residential construction.
Okay.
So if someone were to come in with a proposal to put residential development down here south of the rail trail and north of Mill Valley Road, whether it's a friendly 40B, whatever it comes in, certainly can talk about it at that time, but presently new residential construction is not allowed in an industrial district.
Bill, can I just ask a point of clarification? When you were up by UMass land and you were talking about that being zoned industrial, of course, that's educational and state land, so, or it falls under the, but anyway, my question was, when you were talking about that, if you were to zone it industrial, you'd get, or are you talking about the state pilot formula? Is that what you meant when you were talking about?
I believe so. That was what Dan Zadanek, the retiring assessor, had told me.
Okay.
Because the town puts a value on the property regardless of who owns it.
Understood. Now I understand what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. And when we initially created that industrial district in 1962, there was no stadium. There was no Route 116. And the idea was that it's supposed to be a 2,550 feet from the Amerstown line east. So, so that was laid out initially for industrial purposes before the university started buying it. So that your use is exempt, but our zoning remains intact.
Yeah, I just wanted the clarification on that and just to understand what you meant, but thank you.
We did not rezone after you bought it. Although that would be a clever trick, I suppose. But anyway, as far as this goes, yeah, I'm just not sure we want to. It's functionally inaccessible. It's actively being farmed. I believe that it is not in the APR. I have another map somewhere, but yeah, I'm just not sure it's
Mhm.
worth the struggle.
Okay, no, it's just a question, yeah. Okay, anybody have any other comments or questions for Bill on planning board related projects? No. Then next on the agenda, we have university. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you. And so just a quick update. Molly and Mike Mason and the community relations staff met just this week to discuss other possible projects that we might be able to assist the town of Hadley with as it relates to economic development and housing questions, and how we might offer some technical assistance. While we don't have a project that's specifically in mind at the moment, and certainly this body, were it to come up with another focus area, it might be something that we can consider and bring back to our faculty. What I've pledged to Molly is that we have a few good ideas in mind to propose over the next month or two that might be reasonable and again helpful as it relates to everything from implications and effects of the 40R, or looking at the town center as another potential location for additional upzoning. So these are things that we'll continue to pitch over the next couple of months, and I'm sure they'll be brought back to this group to consider and weigh in on. Molly, is there anything else that I may have missed from our meeting, or?
No, I don't think so. And these are things that our group has talked about previously. So, and I think that the first item Tony was referring to is, we were trying to think beyond just landscape architecture, whether it's regional planning, economics, or Eisenberg. A lot of questions come up about the actual impacts of development in a town, both on the revenue and the cost side. And again, because we don't have our own planner, and as Bill was saying, the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, we're very grateful for their existence, but they're stretched pretty thin. So if we could maybe lean on the university a bit to come up with some of the data that we would otherwise be getting from our own planning group, might be helpful. And then the town center, I think, was the second favorite choice the last time we did the go around, where they did the Hampshire Mall. But the idea of looking at Railroad Street and Goff and all of that, and what that could look like, would be another. So those are the kind of the two that are on the table right now for movement.
Yeah, and we'll bring them back obviously to Molly and to Mike. We have regular monthly meetings where we discuss town gown issues. But this might be the group where there's further refinement of what the project scope looks like, just like it was last time. I think what we'd really like to see, and one of the things that the chancellor impressed in our annual meeting with town leadership was, lasting projects that could be helpful to the town on an ongoing basis, or things that would be meaningful both to our faculty and our students, in addition to the town as well. So, I think the last project that that came from Steve Schreiber's group, I think really was helpful in terms of just opening up a conversation and re-envisioning the Hampshire Mall with the 40R zoning that overlay that you all are considering. But that, that was a one-time type of thing. Can we be thinking long-term around ways in which we can be of technical assistance? So again, we'll offer some ideas, and then, if we can figure out that scope, whether that's within this more public forum or, with, some of you all kind of breaking off and maybe thinking about this so that we don't break open meeting law, of course. But that might be a good thing too.
When is the next meeting of that group?
Of which group, Bill?
You said Molly.
Yeah, I mean, we meet, it's usually these are meetings that we have once a month that just take place to make sure that we're taking stock of what's going on. It's information sharing as much as anything else. But we have one scheduled for February, I think, Molly, right?
Yeah, we changed it. We're trying to get on a regular schedule, and Bill, 2 administrations ago, we used to have these monthly meetings with somebody from Community Relations, David Nixon, and somebody from the Select Board. We started that with the last administration, but it, kind of fell apart for a variety of reasons. And I think the intent is to try to meet the second Monday of every month. But in February, we changed that, and I have February 3rd.
I think that's right.
Because there was a conflict on the 10th.
Okay. The reason I ask is that there are some moving pieces that I'm not at liberty to discuss presently, but should be resolved by the end of next week. So I'd like to just touch base with you before you go into that meeting.
Certainly. Okay. Anything else? Any other ideas you want to share with Tony, or any questions?
No, just I think it's a great asset having the university there and their willingness to assist when we do have a specific project in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. Okay, thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Let's see, we already discussed the next item. And I guess last but not least, any other items folks would like to see on a future agenda?
Could I just go back for a second? We'll call it committee updates. Some of you may have seen Scott Merzbach's article in the paper. Was it just this morning? About the planning board discussing removing the 75,000 square foot footprint for new retail from the business district and the industrial for that matter. I just wanted to point out that was a suggestion for something we might want to look at. It took a full 6 minutes of an hour and 43-minute meeting. No action was taken. And I can only think it must have been a slow news day. It's the first hour and 34 minutes, we were talking primarily with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and with the Parmar family about their 55+ proposal for village barn shops. So this was just a little and late item.
Right. A non-story.
It happened.
Yeah.
It happened, yeah. It was discussed, but
Yes.
Yeah, and I imagine that the particular reporter has been around for quite a while and has been reporting on all things Hadley and many things Amherst for decades. So I would imagine it probably triggered some memories of his about the robust discussion around the imposition of the
I will say he certainly put more research into the article than we did into the suggestion that we might want to look at it.
although I would ask if it does garner more conversation. I'd love to have that discussion in our group as well. So,
Yes.
if it gets any legs at any point, so.
What was the article again?
Our chairman suggested we take a look at the limitation, we'll call it the anti-big box limitation that was adopted by town meeting on a petition article about 20 years ago.
But what was the news article this morning? What paper was it? It was in the paper, you said?
It was in the Gazette.
Oh, I get you.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it and forward it around. It wasn't a long article, but it definitely caught my eye at 7 o'clock in the morning.
And that was a meeting that was held a week ago Tuesday.
Uh,
So
But okay. All right, anything else? If not, then our next meeting will be the 3rd. Let me just double check the date again, just in case I don't know if there are going to be any conflicts, but it would be the 3rd Thursday in February, which will be the
20th.
20th.
the 20th.
Okay,
6 or 6:30? 6?
6 o'clock. Yep.
Okay.
So. Okay, then if there's nothing else, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And aye.
I too.
Aye.
All right, motion made by Bill, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Very well.
Great. All right, have a good night, everybody. Thank you.